Okay, hey everyone. We're here at the PV Magazine booth with Benjamin Clarke from the Africa Solar Industry Association, where Benjamin is Director of Operations. Thanks for joining us at the booth today. First of all, we'd really like to hear what you're seeing in the solar market for Africa this year. What are the trends that you're noticing? How 2026 is shaping up?
So I think the main thing to say is that it's a continuing trend, but there's increasing diversification in the market. Previously, what you would have seen is that it's South Africa, Egypt, and then everyone else. Well, they're padding the stats of the rest of the continent. But now what you're seeing more and more is there is a diversification of additions. So, for example, Tanzania came out of nowhere, installed its first utility scale solar plant, and then equally with Zambia, going past our booth, everyone has wanted to talk about Zambia today.
Great. Yeah, we see that there are a lot of really big megawatt size projects coming out of Zambia. Yeah, and this diversification that you're seeing, is this just standalone solar projects? Or are you also seeing this with solar storage or even standalone storage? How's the storage market also shaping up for Africa at the moment?
So it's an interesting question because essentially for grid tied projects in many African markets, the grid is temperamental, to put it nicely. But yeah, so in many ways, kind of having dispatchable solar power that acts more like a base load means that storage is essentially driving solar markets rather than the other way around. Increasingly, I find. And then if you look in the C&I segment, you see huge cost reductions of storage, particularly for C&I. You're now looking at prices for C&I solar plus storage of 8 cents to 20 cents per kilowatt hour, compared to diesel backup generators, which are still hovering around 38 cents per kilowatt hour. So really, the economic case is there, and you see more and more businesses across all types of industries, hospitality, data centers, mining, agro-processing, switching to solar plus storage, at the very least as a backup, if not completely switching to solar plus storage, just because the economics simply make more sense.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're seeing really good conditions across the continent for these systems.
Yeah, and that plays out basically in the data that we see and that we've been able to track as AFSIA via our project database. We see that actually the majority or the vast majority of additions recently have come from the C&I segment rather than utility scale.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you just a little bit about your project database at AFSIA. I know a lot of work in the association goes on with collating extra data from all the countries in Africa to kind of bridge that gap between perhaps the utility scale installations that we all know about and the imports that come into Africa. Can you tell me a bit about how that work's gone in the last few months and what trends your data collection has shown you in 2026 so far?
So in terms of the data that we managed to collect, so to give you an example of the growth in the Africa market, last year across the 12 months of 2025, I think we tracked about 3.5 gigawatt peak installed. So far in the first half, up to this moment of 2026, we've found 2.7. So if we continue at the rate that we're going, we're not going to double, but we're going to see a significant increase in the rate of installations, and that is despite the removal of the VAT rebate for solar panels as well.
Yeah, I mean, it shows you that these conditions that you're seeing are reflecting on the numbers on the ground, which is great.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, on our side, we're not just collecting forward on a daily basis. We're also, a lot of work has gone into going back and talking to EPCs in markets where we feel that we don't have the best coverage, and really trying to unearth projects that have perhaps happened 1, 2, 3 years ago that we just weren't able to find. So it's a continuous and ongoing piece of work. But what that means is that we have pretty good confidence that our data set is one of the more complete ones on Africa.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a great resource for anyone to have that's keeping an eye on the African market and how things are progressing there. Anyway, thanks for joining us at our booth today, Benjamin, and have a great rest of Intersolar.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.